Hello, everyone, and welcome to HCPL's Camp NanoWriMo. Today is our last virtual write-in and last Camp NanoWriMo event of the month. Don't worry though, if you missed any of our previous virtual events, you can watch the recordings through the Harris County Public Library Facebook page or YouTube channel. My name is Elizabeth, and I am the Assistant Manager at the Catherine Tyra Branch Library at Bear Creek.
And I'm Amy, and I am the branch manager at the Catherine Tyra at Bear Creek Library. And we are so excited to have you here with us today. We're going to be getting started soon with some prompts that will hopefully be fun and get your creative juices flowing.
And as you write, you can either use a story you're already working on, or you can just try the prompts with whatever pops into your head.
Now, Camp NanoWriMo is different from regular NanoWriMo, which takes place in November. In Camp NanoWriMo, NanoWriMo, the goal is to write 50,000 words in 30 days. But in July, for Camp NanoWriMo, it's all about making your own writing goals and setting aside time to write. Feel free to share with us in the comments about what you're working on right now, and we'll share about our projects. Now, since I'm a writer and published author, I'll tell you about the project I'm currently working on. I'm working on book 4 in my Tales of the Outlaw Mages series. Book 4 is called Persuader. And I'm about, let's see, I've got the word count here. I write epic fantasy before I tell you my word count. So I'm at 87,000 words, which is a lot of words. So I'm kind of getting near the end of my writing, which, yay, I'll be done with this draft finally, but then the next couple weeks.
That's awesome. I didn't know you were so far into book 4. If you're a regular NanoWriMo watcher, you've kind of maybe seen Amy's writing as she goes through and writes more and more books. So I'm always impressed with how far you've gotten in writing and how much you write awesome books. So how exciting. I didn't know book 4 was already in progress. So that's awesome.
And to encourage our writers, so 2 of my books were written during NanoWriMo in November. So it is possible to do that. So keep on writing.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay. And, as we go through, feel free to hop on to tell us what you're writing, to share anything that you would like to share. But we're going to go ahead and get started with our first writing sprint. So the way the writing sprint works is that the prompt will be on the screen, and you can use the characters in your planned story that you're already working on, or you can make up new characters and even situations for these sprints. Just write anything that comes to your mind. Don't let your inner editor take over. Just write. So we'll have a 7-minute sprint, and at the end of that time, we'll all talk about what we wrote. And you're welcome to share your word count or give us a quick sample of your writing in the chat, and we'll share that out on the screen as well.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. And our first writing prompt, your character discovers a trap door. What happens next? So think about that, or write it down, and we will see you in 7 minutes.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had a fun time writing with that prompt. Please feel free to share in the comments. How many words did you write? Do you have a line or two or even a whole paragraph to share about what you wrote? What kind of writing are you doing? What genre of writing? We want to hear about anything that you want to share with us.
Yeah, we would definitely love to see if you're writing with us. And so while you're writing in the comments, I'll share a little bit what I wrote. And if Elizabeth wrote anything, I'm sure she could share a little bit with us too. So I wrote 268 words, which is not too bad at all. I'd write a lot more when I'm not interrupted by children all the time. So because I told y'all earlier that I'm kind of deep into this novel, I had to start at the beginning of the scene from where I left off yesterday. So I was just getting to the trapdoor at the end of the 7 minutes. So I'll read a little bit towards the end of my 268 words. And I kind of set the scene. They are looking for someone who is missing. That's all I'll say so I don't give away spoilers. So here we go. So where will he be? Vixen pressed. Give me a minute, the half-knocker said. She pushed her glasses up on her nose, squinting as if she were thinking. There's salt iron in there. My guess is they'll have him near that. Salt iron. Like any other maid, Vixen hated the stuff, but it made sense. Odd, though. How did Flora know there was salt iron inside? That was a question for another time. We need to find him before we run out of time. Yeah, come on, Flora agreed, leading them around the dark inside of the ornate home. The entire way, the half-knocker stared at the inky ground. Vixen knew the short woman could see better in the moonlight than she. After a moment, Flora held up a hand, pointing at something near a flower bed. Trap door. Vixen frowned, coming closer. Flora was right. The soil had been disturbed. She bent down and brushed some back, revealing the cool metal of a door. And that was where I ended.
Oh, do you know what's going to happen next? Do you have an idea in your mind?
I sort of have an idea because the scene before this, the characters kind of had to separate, like another group's doing a distraction thing. And this group I know is about to have things go very, very wrong.
Okay, you discover a trapdoor and everything goes very, very wrong.
Yep.
That makes sense. I like it. And if y'all haven't read Amy's books, I know what's going on with the salt iron and Flora. So if you read her books, it's a fun little Easter egg you'll be able to know. Flora's a really fun character too.
And for people who are like, what the heck is salt iron? Salt iron is kind of like a metal that the mages don't like. It makes their magic not work.
Yeah. So I did the same thing. I just kind of set up somebody discovering a trapdoor, and then wasn't able to get to what happened next. But I kind of went off the idea of kind of the crazy housing market lately, and I had a lot of friends who were moving, and they were looking at houses online and then buying them without ever setting foot in there. So
Oh
I
my God.
thought, wouldn't it be interesting if somebody did that and then went to their house that they had bought and there's a trap door in their house?
Ooh.
And they're like, what is this? I didn't know this was in the house that I purchased. And then you have to explore and see what is under the trap door. So I wrote a little bit. Let me see. She had bought this house online, sight unseen, eager to snatch up such a great deal in the middle of the wildest housing market she had seen in years. As she pondered the possibilities for the basement, board game storage, or makeshift movie theater were top in her mind, the light suddenly hit on something that gave off a glint of metal. She eased her way to the metal ring she could now see, careful to avoid spiderwebs and other unidentified brown patches. As she stood over what she could now see was a handle set in the exact middle of the basement, she realized that there was a trap door. Trap door in the bottom of her basement? How could the housing listing have missed such a unique feature? So it's kind of where
Ooh,
she's going to open the trap door, and I don't really know what I would put down there.
I love that. And that sounds like you could go so many places with that. Like you could go like full horror movie, you could go like fantasy Narnia type thing.
Oh,
There's a lot you could do with that. That's really cool.
I was thinking like I don't know. I was kind of thinking maybe like tunnels, like maybe and there's treasure down there somewhere in the path of the
Oh,
tunnels. That might be
yeah. When I
fun.
went to Breckenridge last fall, and I was taking like the saloon tour because like that was also like research for my books and stuff. There's all these tunnels from the gold rush that went like from the bank to the saloons to the houses. And one of the people who did the tour, like, there's all these other people who are they're like, no, there's no tunnels down there. But this guy had been in the tunnels. He's like, they're all blocked off now, but I've been down there. So like, you
Wow.
could like, especially if it's in like a historical area like that, that
Uh-huh.
could be really cool.
There you go. And if your story has a trapdoor too, all kinds of ideas here: horror, fantasy, Western adventures. So
Historical fiction.
there we go. Always fun ideas that you can get at our NanoWriMo programs.
Yeah, like we have like 4 different genres just from like this one little inconsequential writing sprint idea.
There you go. Always, always great way to get your creative juices flowing is with writing sprints. And speaking of that, I think it's time for us to go to our next one. So with our next writing sprint, you know, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So for this writing sprint, use this photo as inspiration. You can write a story based on the picture, or you can use this setting for a scene in your ongoing writing. So use this picture for your next writing sprint.
Yeah, and for people who are like working on an ongoing story like I am, who maybe like my trapdoor wouldn't work in this scene. Also, maybe you could use like the colors from the scene if it won't work for your setting. So think outside the box, or even like you could use like the birds. They could be like calling in the background or something, or the trees scratching against the window. So don't let this stop you from using it because that's not your setting. You can still use it other creative ways. So think about that, and we'll see you in 7 minutes.
and we're back. So everyone, tell us what you wrote. You can share sentence and your word count in the chat if you want. Amy, how did you do on writing on this one?
So I wrote about 250 words, so I got to do a little bit more. So I'll kind of share a little brief amount of mine. I won't go the whole way since some of it doesn't have to do much with the picture, and I don't want to give away spoilers. But I'll start with where I left off with them finding the trapdoor. Let's see, let me find where I should start. There we go. Raven shifted beside her. If you unbind me, I can go ahead and look. Vixen shot him an annoyed look. I told you before, I need your protection about as much as I need a necklace made out of salt iron. Flora laughed softly at the insult and said something that sounded suspiciously like, ooh, burn. Vixen ignored it, instead rising and looking to someone who will be a spoiler if I say it. But she asked this person to open the door. Hinges squealed with the movement, and Vixen was certain that guards would come running. But instead, she only heard the distant beating of wings as the unexpected noise set a flock of nearby birds into the air. So that was where I brought in our prompt.
I'm curious too. There's spoilers in there. Ooh. How fun.
Well, how did you do? Did you write more on your story too?
Yeah, actually, I kept going with that. I really liked your idea of like using the colors or using the birds. So I had my character like start going down the ladder into the kind of tunnel that the trapdoor revealed.
Ooh.
So as she turned around and started easing her way down the ladder, flashlight now gripped tightly in her left hand, she was suddenly startled by the sound of a bird cooing from somewhere in the distance. The sound had definitely come from somewhere farther down the tunnel. Did this tunnel open to the outside somewhere? She tentatively made her way down the tunnel, gingerly placing one foot in front of the other to avoid potential pitfalls. She began to make out a faint orange color peeking out from around an upcoming corner. It reminded her of the sunset, and as her stomach growled, she realized it probably was the sunset and that she hadn't eaten for nearly 8 hours. She eased her way closer to the now brightening colors, following the light to an offshoot of the main tunnel. She kept going. She realized she was now walking uphill. So that's where I kind of ended. So I figure, it might be kind of fun to like, oh, the tunnel ends, and we decided where that offshoot is going to end, but it's going to lead somewhere, fun outside for her to discover.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I wonder, has she been down there for that long? Has she been down there for 8 hours, or did she just like forget to eat before she went adventuring in her new home?
Yeah. I don't know. There's so much I feel like I just came up with a story. The writing prompt to trapdoor kind of inspired me, but I'm interested now. I want to know what happens.
Yeah, that's the fun thing. Like once you get going, it's like I need to know how this ends.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to our next writing challenge. So this prompt asks you to use a certain piece of dialogue in your writing. So when you write this time, make sure to use the phrase, "I should have seen this coming." And I think Elizabeth and I will probably be able to work that into ours.
Yep. Hopefully you'll be able to work it into yours, and we'll see you in 7 minutes.
Yay.
So, welcome back, everyone. And if you want, share with us in the comments your word count and a sentence or two from your writing. So, I guess we'll start with you, Amy. We got a good thing going here. So, did you
All
use
right.
the phrase, I should have seen this coming?
Yeah, I managed to get it in there. I wrote about 200 words, and I had to kind of like cut through some of the action that I'll probably have to put in another draft just so I could get to where I could have them say that. So I read a little bit of what I wrote. They reached the bottom of the stairs when they heard an exclamation from above. Someone's voice rang out, a challenge and a warning. Flora cursed. Raven, Vixen hissed. I should have seen this coming.
Mm,
So that was how I
okay.
got that in there. But there's definitely some missing action that I couldn't quite get to in those 7 minutes.
Well,
Uh,
I'm curious, as a writer, do you ever do that? Do you ever like get down ideas and then go back and fill in action, fill in details later?
I do that a lot, actually, and that's actually part of my process. I'm kind of like a mood writer, so sometimes I'll have like an idea of what I want to write, and I'm like, well, this other stuff has to happen first, but I don't feel like writing that other stuff. So I'll have a scene where I'm like, I think this thing needs to happen, write it later. So like future Amy gets to deal with that at a later time.
I think that's a great idea because sometimes I think that's what stops us from writing is we think, oh, I have to start from beginning to end and I have to force myself through even if I don't want to write this part. So I think it's encouraging for all writers to hear, you write what you're feeling that day, go back and fill it in later.
Yeah, I know there's some authors who like they write the ending first, which is good because sometimes I'm like, I don't know how this is going to end either. Like it's exciting to me too. So like they know how it's going to end, then they write how it all starts. But I just
Okay.
write it through, and like it's a discovery to me too when I find out what happened in the end.
Okay. Well, that's awesome to know. Always kind of fun different strategies to pick up for
Yeah.
writing.
So what happened with your tunnel there? I'm curious.
Yeah, I had to think. So I think I have an idea for where it's going, but I think I kind of want to. I think it'd be fun to kind of psych people out and think it's a horror, but no, it's not going to be a horror. So let me see. She tentatively approached the end of the offshoot with large slats of wood blocking the entrance. It looks like some of those slats had been recently torn down to make an opening large enough for a human to wiggle through. Birds had evidently found the hole as well and had made multiple nests in the rocky crevices of the tunnel's walls right by the entrance. Maggie knelt down and peered through the opening, finding herself in the backyard of the neighbor 3 houses down. I should have seen this coming, she thought to herself. Of course, it was the house of the neighbor who had glared at her from behind his window shades every time she drove her car past. So I'm kind of thinking like
Ooh.
horror vibes, but might be kind of fun. Maybe the neighbor has a fun secret instead that there's a good reason for the tunnels that she can learn from him. So
Yeah, there's like a lot of ways that could go. So
mhm.
that's really
Yeah,
interesting. I like that.
yeah. It's been fun. It's been fun kind of coming up with a new story. And usually with these sprints, sometimes my mind goes in different directions, but it's been fun to kind of put everything in one story. So,
Yeah. This one's like, it's funny how all these like prompts are very different, but we're still kind of tying them together, which is really cool to
yeah.
see.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I love these. And I hope, our writers who watch it enjoy it as well. I hope it helps give inspiration to them. So, um,
Yeah, and we'd love if anyone's writing
yeah.
with us, go ahead and put your stuff in the chat, and we'll read it when we see it.
Yes, please do. We love seeing your writing. We love hearing you talk about it. We love, even if you watch this later, you're watching the recorded version, type in the comments because we'll go back and read it. We love seeing what you write from these videos. And it is time for our next sprint. So for our next sprint, this one has a list of words, and we want to see how many words you can use in your writing. So these are words that are not really related, so it's kind of fun to see how many of these you can make them fit in there. So the words are biscuit, lost, and skate.
Ooh, no, those are going to be really challenging. So that's going to be fun to see what we can do with that.
Yeah. So see how many of them you can use in your writing. Then we'll come back in 7 minutes and tell us which ones were you able to use.
All right, welcome back. Let's see how everyone did. How many words did you use? Go ahead and tell us in the chat. And this time, let's shake it up. How many words did you use, Elizabeth? And you want to read us some of yours?
I've been writing it all in the kind of same document, but I think so. I have from today's writing in total, I have 743 words from all the sprints.
Nice.
This most recent one was 190 words.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and I did use all the words, but I don't think I like how I used one of them. So I think if this was like a book that I was writing, I would have to go back and be like, no, I'm taking that out. I don't like that. So for me, I guess I'll read what I wrote. Maggie turned around and made her way back to her basement, thinking of all the possibilities for the tunnel as she went. One thing was for sure, she was going to approach the conundrum more prepared next time. When she got back to her house, the first thing she did was lug a huge box of exercise equipment, including old weights and roller skates, to the basement. The heavy box would rest on the trap door, assuring her safety while she thought some things out. The next most important thing to do was eat. She couldn't very well think through all these new developments on an empty stomach. She rummaged through the box marked pantry, pushing aside some biscuit mix and cereal boxes. So there's biscuit. To get to the cans of soup she could quickly heat up, she remembered something the realtor had said to her with a wink after she closed on the house. Don't get lost. She thought the realtor was talking about the massive size of the house and the odd layout at the time, but maybe the realtor knew more than she was letting on. So I don't know if I like that last part. I think if I were writing a book, I kind of want the tunnel to be a secret that, only she and the neighbor knows about. And then she has to work with him to, something I haven't thought of yet.
Yeah, and since we're kind of also talking about like the writing process too, you could totally do that because so the funny thing is, so book 2 in my series, Ephegist, the document I wrote in NanoWriMo in November of not last year, so 2020, like if you look at the first draft of that book, like almost nothing is the same as what ended up in the original and like the final published book. Like I took little bits and pieces. I was like, I like this part, I like this part. And then like so much of it got changed. Like the ending changed so much. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like if you were to read it, you'd be like, this is not the same book.
How funny. And that's so fun to know, that's what I think a lot of young writers, maybe don't realize it's all in the revising and editing. That's all.
Yes.
That's all where it is.
And a lot of people don't like the editing part, but I actually hate the first draft the most because to me it's like always a dumpster fire. And like I like that I'm discovering, but I also hate that I'm discovering because it's like, well, you know me, like I'm a planner. It's like I like to know what's going to happen, but I don't know what's going to happen because my characters have these ideas that I don't know about. So like once I get the draft done and I go see like the destruction and chaos we have wrought and I can make order out of that, like I love the editing. That's my favorite part.
Yay. Awesome. Well, tell us what were you able to write today with the prompt in your story?
Yeah, so I wrote about 230 words. I was only able to use 2 of those words, and I was disappointed because in this scene, one of my main characters, Blaze, is not in it, and I would have been able to use Biscuit if he were in it, but I couldn't because it would have been out of character for these characters at this point to say anything like that. So I was like, oh man. But this is what I have. So this will just be like a snippet. So some of it won't make sense. Some of it's going to be like redacted. So there's spoilers. But yeah. Spark, get to safety. Person cried with a glance over his shoulder. Oh no. This person was only in danger because of her. Determination flooding her body, Vixen swallowed and jogged over, the grip of her 6-gun cool in her hand. At the same time, she pulled on her other weapon, her magic. No, stop, she commanded. It was the wrong thing to say. Person whose name I won't say stopped short, and in that moment she knew they were lost. Obedient to a fault, they stopped fighting their foes, which opened them to attack. One of their attackers laughed at their mistake, pulling out a revolver of his own and shooting this person in the chest. Did he say Spark? A militia man asked, turning to Vixen. A cruel smile skated across his lips in the moonlight.
Oh, lots of spoilers, big things. And then your character Blaze is a baker, in case anyone's wondering. So that's why Biscuit would work really well if the baker was in the scene.
Yes, and even in scenes where he isn't actually doing what he likes to do, like I've made like "Oh biscuit" like a curse for him, which cracks me up. So
Oh, that's
like
funny.
if you were in here, he could have been like, "Oh biscuits,"
Oh,
but
biscuit. Oh man. Well, that might be fun for anybody's book. Oh, biscuit. That's
yeah, yeah.
a fun
So,
little curse word.
funny story behind that curse word because I'm a mom. I stole that from the TV show Bluey. Because they say, "Oh, biscuits," and I was like, "I'm gonna use that. I love that." Like I put little Easter eggs in my books
Uh-huh.
too from places like that.
How fun. Well, I think we have time for one more writing sprint, right?
Yeah, I think we can squeeze one more in. So let's set a scene somewhere that involves water. And by the way, you still have time to sign up for our Oceans of Possibility summer reading program. You can sign up on our website at hcpl.beanstack.org.
Perfect. I love the water theme, Oceans of Possibility. It's a great one to end on today, tying to our summer reading. So we'll see everyone back in 7 minutes.
All right, welcome back. Let's see how everyone did. In our chat, go ahead and share your word count and a sentence or two if you'd like. So Elizabeth, how did you do?
I kind of got stuck on this one. I'm not sure where I want to go. I was able to involve a little bit of water, but the most I could think is, my character was eating dinner and then she kind of washes up in the sink. So I don't really have. I kind of hit a wall with this one and with kind of the story and where I wanted to go. So that's what I did. How about you?
So I managed about, let me see, I did 154 words, so less than the other times, because I was also like, how can I incorporate this prompt? Because obviously, like, my people are still at this like location, there's not water there. So I was like, well, I'll kind of like use it for inspiration. So I'll read a little bit of what I did. Let me find that part. There we go. But the militiaman was watching Vixen too. She captured his gaze with her own. Drop your weapon. She sank all of her power into the words, though the effort cost her as her magic ebbed like an outgoing tide. That was how I involved the water.
I like that image though. That's a very powerful image. So I like how you took the kind of inspiration and twisted it around to fit your story. That's great.
Yeah, so it just kind of proves that, when we do these like different, writing prompts and things, you don't have to like take it literally. You could be like, well, how else can I twist and turn that and use that?
Yep.
So don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we don't have any comments for today, but we do hope some people will be inspired by these prompts and write sometime later. We know people are busy with the summer, and we have reached the end of our virtual write-in, but please make sure to tune in to our next writing event, which is part of our monthly HCPL Writes program. It's going to take place on Tuesday, August 9th at 6:30 p.m., and it's going to cover anthologies. What are they and how do they work?
And we had a lot of fun today. Thank you so much to everyone who is been writing with us today and writing with us all month long through Camp NanoWriMo. We really enjoyed writing with you today and, throughout this whole month. Also, don't forget to go to hcpl.beanstalk.org to sign up for summer reading, where you can get prizes just for reading. Thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next month for anthologies.
Bye-bye.
Bye.